Hello, everyone, and welcome back to, it's going to be episode 2 here today, the AUC Women's Preview of, we've moved away from the Dan and Greeny show, and we're going to move towards backhand compliments. I like backhand compliments. I love a punt as well. Greeny, how are you today?
Yeah, really good, Dan. I'm really excited to get into looking at the women's for Div 1, especially having contacted coaches and captains of the teams and getting the lowdown.
Yeah, I'm keen. I'm so keen to hear because you've been doing some reconnoitering. You've been out there talking to all the teams and getting the lowdown. And I've been doing some work. I've come up with an absolutely horrific slideshow that's going to support our chat today. I'm just going to smash straight back to the start, Greeny. And it's promising to be a good nationals for the women. We've got 12 teams again, 10 last year, so we're back to a full complement. And I think probably one of the more even competitions, like at least across the scale. Yes, the top end is the top end, and we'll talk about that. But, towards that middle to lower end, like there's a lot of really evenly matched teams, and it's going to throw up some delicious matchups. I think we dive straight in, Greeny. I'm keen. Yep. I'm keen to hear from you. What's your secrets to winning in the City of Churches?
All right, well, folks, we just put down a few things here just before the show here. But okay, so we are returning. For those who don't know, we'll be returning to the City of Churches, which is Adelaide in South Australia, the capital of South Australia. It's the first time we've been back there since 2010, which was in fact the first year of ulti.TV, as you well know, Dan.
Before it was ulti.TV.
Yeah, that's right. Incredible to be back there 15 years later. But the defining feature of West Beach in Adelaide, where it's being held, it's on the beach. It's going to be windy. And I think for both women's and men's, how they handle the wind is going to be the key to success. And I think, in particular with the women's, I think they've got to have a real go-forward mentality. So really looking to break open the game with strong and brave throws, and obviously playing from the high side. If there's normally some sort of side breeze, there'll be a high side and a low side of the field, getting over there and then striking to the end zone. So key in terms of personnel, big throwers, and you need the good receivers to bring down the trash. So, and accompanying that, of course, is having an effective zone in your arsenal that the team that works well in the wind, and not all the teams have that, and some do. So there's my tips for winning in Adelaide.
Yep.
Back there again, Dan. Their old hometown.
Well, you've been there, done that with I-Beam. Their one and only national title so far in 2010 was won, West Beach, and I remember it, and I think out of everywhere, West Beach has most in common with Wollongong when it comes to just the velocity of wind, and it just seems to be really, really blustery there. So I'm vibing with what you're putting down, and I think that it's going to be interesting to see how those teams deal with the conditions, because Adelaide is not a common place that we travel to. Like we're used to traveling into Victoria. We've played tons on, the mid-north coast, like here at Nelson Bay. So an interesting year it's going to be. So I'm going to cover off on each of the teams in alphabetical order. We're going to talk a little bit about them, and then we're going to put them on the predictions board. And Greeny, your thoughts on Brisbane Fuse?
Oh, well, they've been under the radar. Unfortunately, their one chance to have a pre-tournament leading up to Nationals was going to be Canberra Cup. And unfortunately, Cyclone Albert cost them that chance. they had to stay tight in Brisbane. All flights were cancelled. They made the decision, as did their male counterparts, to not fly down, which was a good decision in the end. So, be very interesting to see how they go. They're a bit of a mystery team. They've named 21 players. We've got 11 that are returning from last year. 10 of those players are new, and this is a theme we're going to see across all the women's. There's been a big turnover in the rosters. So, Fuse have got 10 new, and there are 10 that are not returning. I think this is going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. They have been bolstered in recent times by a Irish contingent, and their player, they recently named their Player of the Year and Young Player of the Year, and in Brisbane. And so the Player of the Year was Ellie Koenig, so she's definitely one to watch. And the Young Player of the Year, Lily Dehennen, and she's new on the Fuse roster, so she's going to be another player to really look for. Yes, and unfortunately, Kat Perry, that's nee Kat Smith, in fact, whose shirt I'm wearing here. Big
Repping
fan,
the colours.
of course, the Brisbane Breakers, founding member, but a huge fan of Kat Perry. And unfortunately, she's taking a break. And that's another theme, Dan, that we're going to see with the women's. Part of this big turnover is a bit of burnout from such an intense year last year with Worlds being played in the Gold Coast and players needing to take a break, both mentally, physically, and financially.
Yep.
So that is definitely something that's played out. I don't know the exact reason Kat is not back playing. She's still very much involved with the team. But yes, we've got Ash McGuinness now, who actually played Barramundis. She is the captain of the team. This is... but I think this team, especially without Kat, are going to struggle to make inroads into wind. So, again, I'm predicating a lot of my picks and positions and nationals based on windy conditions, and I just don't think they have the throwers to really penetrate into the breeze. They've got the receivers, Dom Simpson, Georgia Sullivan. They've got some great receivers, but I'm not sure they've got the throwers to get into the breeze, especially without Kat.
Yeah, and also I notice on our list, this is pulled from the Nationals website, so I'm not sure if the team lists are up to date. I'm just rolling with what we've got. Clancy Bartram listed as a coach, so she's not playing, potentially, John.
Yeah, well, she was actually named in the team, so I'm still hoping she plays. And we talk about good receivers. Obviously, Clancy played Barramundis and had a fantastic time there.
And has been named?
And sorry?
And has been named for next year?
Yeah, she has been named, but she was not on the roster for Brisbane. For Canberra Cup.
Yeah,
and wasn't in their Brisbane Bash team either. So again, I'm a little bit mystified there, and I haven't had a chance, unfortunately, to catch up with them, so I don't know that inside story. But yeah, that'll be interesting.
Well, I think that it's time to introduce you all to what is going to be a mainstay of Backhand Compliments, and that's the Milk or Wine Predictions Board.
You might have to explain Milk or Wine for the uninitiated.
Well, it's all about how the prediction ages, right? Like, has it aged like milk or has it aged like wine? Was it on point or was it like wishful thinking? And for Fuse, we're pretty agreed here, Greeny, that they'll make the quarters and then kind of that'll be as far as they get, we think, for 2025.
Yeah, and this is a strong team, no doubt about it. But yeah, if I'm right with my win prediction, I think they'll struggle with the win.
All right. Let's move on. Ellipsis Ampersand, one of the Ellipsis teams. John, you've been doing a little bit of research into these Victorian teams, Spicy Chili as well, which are coming up later. But Tell us a little bit about Ellipsis.
Yeah, well, they've only had 2 outings that we know of course. That is Canberra Cup, but also Southern Regionals. And again, I haven't been able to catch one of the Ellipsis players, but I have found out that they have this plan, this vision that they have, and I'll quote from their website or their Facebook site. 2025 is a time of change and growth for Lippy women. We are shaking things up to become the best throwing team in the world. And what a year for that, if they can achieve, big upward steps in throwing ability. And I'll throw in there, Dan, that I am a big believer that Australia as an ultimate nation needs to improve our baseline throwing skills. Yeah, and I suspect that Adelaide is really going to show up who really has progressed with their throwing skills. So I think this is a great plan by Ellipsis to do this. They call it Battlestar Galactilla. That's the name of it, and they've got some cheesy visuals there from Battlestar Galactica.
Nerds and puns. I love it.
Yeah,
Can't go wrong.
I mean, we wouldn't go into that, would we?
No, I'm not about to throw stones from my glass house over here. We're looking at this team, right, John, and they look strong, don't they? And I mean, it's just going to be a repeat, isn't it? Like, is there any doubt that Ellipsis are going to win this year?
Well, I think the conditions, again, if it's windy, that it actually falls into their hands. I think they've got the skills. They've got 5 players from the Firetails from last year, and plus they've got Dot Lee, who played Barramundis. Plus they've got 4 Stingrays and also a Blue Bottle in there as well. So incredible rep coverage. Ellipsis as a club had half the team for WC last year, so the Firetails. So it's hard to see them not go through. And of course, looking at their results, they obviously won regionals, and they also won Canberra Cup.
Yep.
So even though they copped a couple of losses, so Factory Flash beat them 14-12 at Canberra Cup, and Rogue beat them 11-10. But they got it together and they won the semi against Manly 12-10. So close games. And I think, again, as you said, this year the women's division's really opened up, which is fantastic news. And we've seen such a changeover in rosters, new players coming through. So there's a premium on the coaching and leadership as how well they integrate these new players and how they step up.
Yeah, and that's really been a defining factor of Ellipsis over their entire existence, has been top-tier coaching and top-tier integration of players. Like, they have players come along, they play in a system, and the system works really well. And, Ellipsis aren't as absolutely bulletproof and dominant as they were previously, where they weren't losing a game, but they're still getting the job done. And down the stretch, it's hard to go past them. And let's talk about the other Ellipsis team, Asterisk. It seems weaker, and based on results, has been weaker so far this season, John.
It's surprising, because they actually have 7 of the Firetails.
Yep.
And being the nerd that I am, I looked at the
I frothed over it, John. Tell me about it.
Looked at the scores and assists for those players, and they dominated. They had 96 scores and assists for those 7 players. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. They've got 2 of those are Crocs, Laura Meehan and Sally Yu.
Yep.
Plus, they've got Charlotte Botham-Clark as a Stingray. The player to really look for, actually, is Abby Liddell. So she's a new up-and-comer. She got the MVP at Canberra Cup. Really exciting new athlete. I'll be I can just picture her just going through being a fight. You could just see this pathway for these talented athletes in a good system. So, yes. But Asterisks, for whatever reason, they've been slower to really bring it together at regionals. They lost 13-9, and also to Ampersand, and then 15-11 in the final. Then at Canberra Cup, they lost to Manly Mavericks 14-7. So that's quite a statement. But they took care of GWS Blaze, Sugar Mags, Manly Marlins and Rogue pretty handily, it must be said. So they definitely improved during the tournament. They didn't have their full complement. So, you would never underestimate any Ellipsis team. And again, I think they have the players to do really well in the wind.
They do, and I've got a little bit of a hot take actually for Ellipsis Asterisk. I feel like the way you beat them is also the way you lose really bad to them. I think that if they're able to force, say, like Caro Ma into throwing a lot, I think there might be some success there for teams. However, you run the risk of Caro Ma throwing 8 assists in the game. I think it's one of those things where it's like, oh, there might be a pathway there to beat this team if you can, because Caro Ma is a gunslinger, right? Like, she will drop the disc on the end zone from anywhere on the field. And in the wind, like, unless it's Sally Yu or Eva Wetherill, and probably more often than not will be chasing those discs down, but maybe there is a way of creating some, I don't know, perceived pressure where Caro takes it on when she doesn't need to. And I'm throwing back as well to like the Ellipsis system was always that there wasn't one player that tried to do it all. It was just this really well-rounded team where they all did it, and they all did it at a very high level, where I think if you can take Ellipsis out of that game plan of that even load and try and shift it towards one player, I think that's where Ellipsis get uncomfortable, and it might be a pathway to victory.
Well, you talk about Caroline Ma. She is my favourite player. I mean,
she's class.
I love watching her play because of her game IQ. I just love watching smart players and how they approach things. I think she's the smartest. She was certainly the smartest, I thought, on Firetails. Watching her at World Games in 2022, I just love watching her play. She's smart. She's got the throws. So I think these conditions will suit someone like her, a smart player, having to deal with windy conditions as well. And just a reminder that, we haven't seen the best of them at Canberra Cup. They were missing Laura Meehan, They were missing Sally Yu.
Yeah.
Right? So they're two crocs. Korea Gomez, Charlotte Botham-Clark, they're Stingray, Ruby Anderson. So, they've got lots of upside.
Well, and on that, like, we both think they're going to the semis at a minimum. I think they'll win their last game. You think they'll lose their last game?
But and remembering, I haven't changed my predictions since just after Gold Cup. So before regionals, before Canberra Cup, and I'm going to stick with it.
Adds extra spice to it, doesn't it? When you make a really early season prediction based on very little information, when you're mostly making it up. And I don't know. It feels like they're going to go deep and easily. I could be easily wrong here, and it's another ellipsis final.
Yeah. Look, it would not surprise me. It would not surprise me.
The thing that would surprise me is if they lose in the semis. I think that would be a surprise.
Yeah, and that's a fair call as well.
Right.
So, let's see. I don't mind that prediction at all.
Yeah. Factory Flash. Let's head to the ACT.
Factory Flash. So they came up to Gold Cup, which was great. We got to see them. And Dan, you and I were both impressed.
And you hate to love them. You hate to love them because, like, there was just something missing. They were so good, and then the results didn't happen.
Yeah, to me, Factory and Rogue, they're very hard to read. They can be hot and cold, really hot and cold. And but let's just talk about their roster. So
Yeah.
they certainly they've got 23 named. They've lost 8 from last year, including great players like Rosa Wang. They lost Thea Osmond, Sarah Ethel, Hannah Monty from last year. That's huge.
Yeah.
Angie Toe. So they've lost a lot, but they've seen Miriam Downey come back. She's been really important for them and taking a leadership role. Grace Downey, Estelle Weir,
Yep.
Evelyn Lim, Rosie Happ, Rachel Joyce, Selena Liu. So the players that have come in are pretty athletic, and certainly they look, when they are playing well, they look really hard to get the disc off them on offense, particularly. They connect well. I worry that we haven't seen them much with Julia Birchall. She was missing also Canberra Cup. She's dealing with some injuries. I think she's going to be key to their chances at West Beach, assuming it's windy.
Yep.
Ju has done this before. She knows how to play wind. Because outside of that, Lila Apple is their other central handler who's going to have to do a lot of the heavy lifting. I really rate her. I think she's a great player. But that's a lot on her shoulders. So I just wonder how they're going to go with the wind.
And I think they've got some good players actually for wind. Karina Schubert, but especially Kate Bailey. Bailey is...
She's their bailout, right?
She's there bailing out the boat. And she's not like super tall. She's not super athletic. She's athletic. But she just has this immaculate read on the disc, where an immaculate read of the game as well, where she just knows where she needs to get to. She's got a hell of a nose for the end zone. She scores so many goals, and I think she could be really critical. If her engine's going and she's getting to the contest, she could be the difference maker, and she has that ability to make a really scrappy pack catch. And create something out of nothing just with read and athleticism.
Yeah, you're dead right. We saw that at Canberra Cup. She was bringing down the trash. There's no doubt about it. When those jump balls went up, she's got an exceptional read. The other one is Bronte Sleeth. Another player who I think can make a real impact. Just a good athlete. She's a real linkage player downfield for them.
Yeah, Factory have... Yeah, go
on. So she's a Stingray this year, and Grace Spratt is a Blue Bottle. Caitlin Grange is Platypi, along with Kathleen Kershaw for the beach later in the year. Saskia Blackburn, one of the young players, is a Blue Bottle, and Yushin Yin is a Platypi. So a little bit, there's got some nice rep players there. So there's a lot of motivation for those players too to do well and to build towards their rep season.
And something else I thought, John, before we move on to the predictions, like Factory Flash, they've got this really nice core of players who are, mid-20s. And I'll list them off, and they're starting to get some game time under their belt. And it's kind of this, there's a generation here that's really formed for Factory. It's Grace Spratt, Bronte Sleeth, Caitlin Grange, Karina Schubert, Grace Downey, Kate Bailey,
Saskia Blackburn.
Yeah, and they're, you've got like 10, 12 players who have been playing together a couple of years now and playing at a high level. And that kind of leads me to think that the clock isn't ticking, right? Like some teams, they need to win this year because they're getting older and there's a window closing. I feel like the window for Factory Flash is very much opening. This is the start of something. Perhaps if they can keep this team together, get some good structures in place, play a certain way, I think we're going to see a turnaround in the Factory Flash fortunes. And you like them. You like them for bronze, John.
Well, I was super impressed at Gold Cup, which is when I made this prediction. As I said, I'm concerned about their ability in the wind.
Yeah.
But, at Canberra Cup, they beat Rogue 14-8, which was a great result for them, having lost to them at Gold Cup. Oh, sorry, they lost to Rogue 14-8.
Yeah.
So Rogue is a bogey team for them.
Yep.
But they beat Ellipsis Ampersand 14-12, which was a great result. That was their huge result there.
Yep.
Beat the Marlins, beat the Sugar Mags. So, I'm hopeful that they do well, and I'm really hoping Ben Sudis and Rory Burt, the coaches, can take the tips that I have.
Yeah.
Go forward. That's what the factory need to do. Go forward offense.
Yeah. I feel like I've got them picked for 6th, and this entire 5 to say 9 bracket, or even 5 to 10 bracket, you can mix them up and there's no way to really split them because they all feel really, really close. And I feel like Factory is probably at the pointy end of that bracket. I like them for 6th, and I love the way they play. I think that they've got a bright future coming up. Let's move back to Sydney. GWS Blaze, a short roster for them, John?
Yeah, we saw them we've seen them at regionals and Gold Cup and Canberra Cup. So we've got quite a good look at them. They have had a huge roster turnover from last year. I count 11 players that are not returning from last year, and they've picked up another 10. So that's a huge turnaround. They've picked up Caro Tamas from Rogue, and they've also got Sherry Poon, Alyssa Freeney. So she's an exciting new player. This is the daughter of Christy and Sam Freeney, So we're looking second generation players. She's already repped in juniors. She looks like a great receiver for them, and she'll just continue to get better. I think their talisman player and their key player is Monica Poop, actually. I just think that she is the X factor. She's a game-breaking player. We saw her at Gold Cup, just making these incredible plays, saving goals, bailouts. But they've also got Kaos, Kristen Mortimer, who's a captain for them. She's also very experienced now. She's got, I think she'd be really good for the glue of the team. She's a very empathetic person, let's say. So I think she's going to have a real influence on the team. And Betty Tan, obviously, loads of experience, good coaching experience now. I'm sure she's involved with the coaching of the team as well.
Yeah.
So,
and Monica Poop, of course, is Monica Chan, and it's just she's an administrator. She should probably know better, but she's always been Monica Poop on the after website, and it catches me out every time. That
I just say it anyway. If she's going to put it out of there, she's going to have to wear it. She'll have to wear the poop.
Yeah. Your prediction, John, for the GWS Blaze?
I think, again, they've got such a big turnover of players. I do believe the leadership have done a great job. They're exciting. They play an exciting brand. They're quick, and they've got some skills. But I think, again, they're going to struggle in the breeze. They don't have those throwers to really penetrate in the breeze.
And for me, I agreed with you because I was out of ideas for where to put them. So I won't claim this as my pick. I was kind of like, yeah, that sounds good because you could see them sneaking into the quarters, and you wouldn't bat an eyelid. If they snuck in, you'd be like, yeah, fair enough. They're a quality club with great experience, and they've been there before and they've done it before. And it's just a question of, how does it play out for them with the wind? How does it all come together for them? Next, let's move right along. Let's head out west to Kaos and the Western Australian ultimate frisbee team for the women.
Yeah, this is it's always interesting. It's always a mystery how Kaos is going to turn up. And in this instance, they have not had a lead-in to nationals, a proper lead-in. Worryingly, they lost at their own regionals, Western regionals. They actually lost in universe to a team called Soak, which is made up of quite a few of the Kaos alumni that actually played last year and not returning. So they've named 21 in their team. There's 9 that are not returning, which is a bit of a blow. And that includes, players like Karen Baker, who's so critical. Her husband Lee is still coaching, which is a boon. Annie Jessup, Alicia Lim, so they're losing these really good players. Mary Jane Rigby is another to not return. So, but they've got 8 new players. They've got 2 Japanese. So even though it's 21 named, they could. They're still trying to work out their Japanese players coming in. And once again, they are benefiting from this association with Japanese players, interchanging between countries. I think it's great. Japan benefiting from very good working visa and holiday visa conditions in Australia. So why not come down, see a totally different culture if you're an ultimate player, and we benefit greatly from that. So, yeah, I think if we take out that regionals, I think that this is a team that is still trying to find itself a bit, and they've got, I think, a player to watch would be Hanako Taga. We talk about Japanese players, so she's a little lefty, an amazing player, really. She was MVP at regionals, and she continues. She's really shy, right? But she's such an incredible athlete that I think she will shine. She'll shine in these conditions. She'll be the girl who'll be picking up scraps, but she's also got very nice frozen wind. That's going to help Kaos. And hey, we talk about wind. Now, what do we know about Perth? The long relationship of Kaos and Sublime with the Fremantle Doctor. Okay.
Yeah.
And I do know, Dan, that for the past few seasons, Kaos in their shirts, on the insides of their shirts, have written "Wind is a gift."
Really?
Now, I don't know if they are going to be in this year's edition.
Yeah.
I'm excited to find out. I'll see if they have "Wind is a gift." They do train on weekends. Okay. They train obviously during the week, but the weekends is where you're going to get the Fremantle Doctor every day. So I hope that works to their advantage.
Well, and that was, I was going to comment on that because, historically, the Western Australian teams have not really done that well in the wind. That's actually been a bugbear of these Western Australian teams. And given that they have the Fremantle Doctor who, like clockwork, rolls in at 3 p.m. every afternoon or thereabouts, I imagine that they would schedule trainings around that time so that they can train in wind. But I don't know. And the other thing about wind and players, Japanese players and their technique is actually very well suited to wind. They tend to be very stable with the disc. You'll see most Japanese players will always have 2 hands on the frisbee. And when they throw, it tends to be quite flat, lots of spin, and generally released from fairly close to the ground. So potentially both Hinako Taga and also I see Nana Kinuchi there. I'm assuming that they're both Japanese imports. And maybe that is going to help this Kaos team with, just another perspective of how to play in wind. Your predictions, Greeny, for the women out of the West?
Yeah, well, they always bring it, and I'm proud of that fact, having lived and played 4 nationals with West Australian teams. Our ability, well, I say ours.
That's ability, a long time ago, though, John.
the ability for these WA teams to do well with basically no preparation is always amazes me, and I think it's a great testament to the programs there. So yeah, I see them coming sixth.
I was much around the mark. I was like, they're too quality. Lee Baker, that's a big in. When you're having some turnover in your team, to have an experienced coach who's been there, done that, not only as a player but also as a coach as well. Like I like him. I can't go past him. I think that they're in the quarters for sure. And then they might, if they have a good tournament, if they're able to come to grips with the conditions, I think they've got a good chance of making it into the semi-finals.
Yeah. Look, and just a couple more names. Sabrina Morrow not playing. That's a big loss. She was in that soap team that beat Kaos. That is a loss. But they've also, they've just got some added new speed. So Selena Tham, watch for her, and also Asher Robson, who's from a sprinting background.
Really?
I think. So they've got these athletes that will hopefully be able to save what is almost certainly going to be errant discs, and they've got to keep remembering wind is a gift.
Yes, wind is a gift, and it can be a great equaliser where it brings teams back to you. And if you can accept the conditions and rise to the challenge, you're in with a shot. And I'm just thinking like a left-handed Japanese player and a player with a sprinting background. I can instantly think of two big names that have a familiar backstory to that. I'll let you guys, the audience at home, can have some trivia. Who am I talking about there? Let's move on to the next team. It's going to be the Manly Marlins.
Well, this is the big experiment for Manly, is to have two women's teams going for Div 1. I think it's a great idea. Manly, let's just think about this club for a minute. I think they're the number one club in terms of what they're doing, in terms of the young players they've brought through.
It is. They've got just this pipeline, and it's a fat pipeline. There's just so many talented players coming into this club, and like while the rules allow XY, I personally am coming to hate the ability for one club to send two teams. I think that in the future, AFTA probably should look at restricting entry to one team per club. I think that would be a net benefit for the game. But I mean, at the club level, while they've got the opportunity to split things down and send, basically 40 players to go get that experience, it's big for these clubs.
Oh, I think it's great. They've got, in terms of their roster, of course, it's new, so we can't look at who's out and who's in. But they've obviously got Taz Anderson now. She has been coaching them. She also has been playing. So she's brings a lot of experience. Obviously, Sophie Johns, she's been injured a bit, but the tall left-hander, she'll be very handy for them. But the player I really love is Amber Richards. Now, she's been their captain this season, another lefty. Now, you and I just remarked, it was the first time we really sort of had a good look to see her as a player, but her buttery throws and her decision-making were excellent. I see her as a player of the future for Manly. I don't mind her playing a season here in Marlins and, leading this team and getting leadership experience and, having to be that sort of central handler. And then Ema Spears, who's under 24s this season. She's a good, really good talented receiver, came through Wollongong. But their results, we saw them, they were struggling a bit at Gold Cup. At regionals, they didn't win a game, although they went to Universe with Sugar Mags. And then finally at Canberra Cup, they got their win. So they beat the Sugar Mags 9-7 in the final game. So, if you look at their progression, they've got the W as they, and that's the last lead-in for them before Nats. Look, it's going to be a learning experience, and I just think it's a great idea, and these players are all going to really benefit. They're a very young team.
Because there is a speed differential. And what's your prediction for them for this Nationals, John?
Yeah, look, I think, again, wind is going to cruel them, especially with a bunch of new players. It's going to show up the level of throwing experience, really. Yeah, you look at the games that we've seen of the Marlins without wind. They've got good technique. They've obviously well coached, but in game and when the pressure is on, is where you find the 1% of throwing ability, and I think that might let them down.
Well, I picked them for 11th, and it's less about them and more about who they'll be playing. I think that it's going to be a step up for them. They're going to find it tough, and that's part of the plan, I think, as well as you take the results combined across the two teams, don't you? Really, and the ability to get an extra 20 players into Div 1 and play at that higher level and that faster speed. I think it's gold for Manly, and potentially this is the groundwork for beating Ampersand or Ellipsis, in general, is you got to have depth and then make a tilt at it at some point in the future. But we'll move right along. Manly Mavericks.
Wow. Well, the sister team, and they've named Big sister. They've named 22. Now, 15 of those are returning players. That's a good, as I said to you, incredible turnover. 9 are actually out from last season. But that's pretty typical, and to have 15 returning is actually not bad in the women's division this year. But obviously they lose Taz to the Marlins. Britt McCarthy from Sugar Mags, who played a season with them, she had to deal with a concussion, so she was a bit cruel last season. Lacey Moore, Lauren Simcox, Megan Edwards, Paige Carver is a big loss from the US. Rosie Dawson, obviously a big loss, but she played another one who played WAC last year and is not returning. Sophie Johns moves out. So, that's a lot of experience to lose. The good news is, it was brilliant to see Osaka to return. You really hope her knee's going to be okay. We saw her injure that knee at regionals and she had to come off. But we also saw her return to play at Canberra Cup. So that was great. Evelyn Ha. Good to see Ida Rosenthal, who's a under 24s. She is made it to the top team. So let's have a look at those. Eva Schraschen, I should say. Really good handler. She's in the under 24s team. Evelyn Ha in the under 24s. Kate Pankhurst, who's come through Wollongong as well. And she's very quick. He's going to be a really good receiver. She's just improving every time we see her. The big one, of course, they've kept Kai Weir. She's their croc, and she is so important for them downwind. And in the wind, she will bring down the trash. Yep. But she's also got throws in the wind. But I think you and I commented that we really like to see her when she's downfield, making the connections from the handlers to the cutters and then striking. I think that's really her role. She can really just get disc after disc after disc.
Yeah, and this is a very, very good Mavericks team. The more I look at it, the more I like it. I think they've got the pieces, and they've got. We heard your secrets, the secret sauce to winning in the City of Churches. Hannah Chen, Kia Weir, Nat Otten, and Taylor Carty. There's 4 really, really good receivers. And then you've got others like Maylee Rigards Tang, just Asaka Latoyo, Anna Stoddard, right? Yeah. Anna Stoddard is a scrappy old player who just loves the fight. She's a competitor. And I love the pieces that they got in place here. And, right, Nikki Shires is back coaching. I remember Nikki Shires coaching juniors in 2006. Here we are nearly 20 years later, and she's back coaching again. Like the wealth of experience there between Nikki Shires and Daisy Warman. Like these,
isn't that wonderful? It's just wonderful to see those two, and they just bring the respect immediately.
Yep.
But they're just great people, great role models. Just to round off too, I left out Paige McKay, also an under 24s. Yeah. Sarah Laws comes in and Taylor Carty.
I think this could be one of the best finals that we have ever seen in the women's division. If it ends up being Mavericks v Ampersand, I think it could be. I remember when we covered the women's. Oh, when was that? It's a few years ago now, maybe 2022 in Victoria somewhere, and it was Manly v Ellipsis in the final, and that was hot. I think it was Di Warman's last big tournament. I think this one promises to be even better. Like if it ends up being that, and both teams are having a good tournament, like you could see the Mavericks getting up, and it's going to be a fascinating one. Like it could be the best final we've ever seen in the women's division. I'm frothing. Let's just put it. I'm buzzing. Absolutely. I'm pumped. I'm hyped, and I hope it works out that way.
And we haven't even mentioned Holly Reeve and Laura House. That was so important for them last year.
Yeah,
they'll be great in the breeze. So these players, and you say May Lee, Rickards Tang. I mean, and Nat Otten bringing down the trash. So fingers crossed.
Let's move right along, John. We've got a long way to go, and I think we're falling behind a little bit, but that's okay. Rogue.
Oh, okay. They talk about a hot and cold team, that embodies Rogue. When they are at their best, they are so good. And
they are, aren't they? They're just...
they look their best when they're playing fearless and feisty. And I think I think Kat Ashton is a really good coach for them. But they bring in Alex Ladamatos, who's coming back from knee injury.
It needs no introduction.
The girls really, really respect him. Of course, why wouldn't you? Here's a guy who's won US Nationals. No other Australian player has done that. But outside of that, the guy is just, is a legend. But he's also got great game IQ. So, and he's bringing that to a coaching role, and the girls all respect that. So that's really important. So between Kat and Lado, they need to keep the girls playing fearless and feisty.
Yeah, stick to the plan.
And what do we say was the keys? Was to go forward. That's the fearlessness to really just go, no, back yourself. I've got this throw, and to play that.
And there's some great players on this team. Like Shannon Bubb is going to World Games. Angela Pigeon, Maddie Owens. Like they've got some great receivers down the stretch that could really make a difference. And Nez Ruiz, she's trying to recapture some of the magic of the past. Like she hit some heights in the last couple of years that were exceptional. And I think that she isn't quite back to that level yet. But if she was to recapture it, especially in Adelaide, she could give some offensive lines conniptions. Like a lot of these teams, they will have that kind of primary reliable handler. And Nez Ruiz, if she ends up matched up on you, that's a hard day at the office.
Yeah, I feel like their talisman handler will, as has been the case, will be Eunice Chong.
Yep.
Now, I'm a huge fan of Eunice. She's so talented. And the key for her is not to feel like that it all rests on her, that she can rely on her players around her. She doesn't need to make the game-breaking throws all the time. That said, you still want her to be fearless with the throws, as we were just talking about. But I'm really hoping she feels that support and that she can set up the plays rather than going for them all the time.
Yep.
But I'm a huge fan. And one of those players is Eliana Rico. Now, she didn't make – so she's from Colombia. She didn't make the World Games team, which I'm surprised that she didn't make the World Games team. Nevertheless, she is an amazing player, playing Revolution and playing for Colombia for a number of years, and is just so good for Rogue, especially since last year. They've only lost 6 players from last year, but look at the list: Helen Epstein, Caroline Tamas, Danny Alexander, Evelyn Hart, Malin Gow, Bex Palmer, who's returned to the UK. So that's a lot of experience to lose, but there's only 6, and they've taken on another 6 players, which include Thea Osman, Charlotte Owens, Maddie's sister, who's a great athlete, Anya Lorenzen, Anita Young, and Eliana. So they've brought on athletes, they've brought on an incredibly experienced and talented Colombian player. They play hot and cold, and let's just hope that they play hot for nationals.
And your prediction, John, for this Rogue team?
Yeah, I've got them at 6, which is a bit of a low ball, I think. Again, just coming straight off Gold Cup when I made the prediction, they've proven that they can beat anyone. They can beat anyone on their day. It's going to be, I think, again, down to how fearless and feisty that they can play.
Yeah, and I think they'll sneak. I think they'll sneak in the semis, and I do have the feeling though that the fourth team. I think that the 3 Ampersand, Asterisk, and Mavericks, they're going to be there in some way, shape, or form. And then that 4th spot, I think that there's going to be a team who sneaks through. Could be Rogue, could be Kaos, could be Factory, could be Fuse. It could be any of them. I think that Rogue potentially will be the ones, to make out the semis. Next, Spicy Chili from the south.
Spicy Chili. Yes, well, I was just had a lovely conversation with Mish Phillips last night as she was going to training. being driven to training by her Japanese cohort players. It's good to see them driving in Australia too, but yeah, they're in a very interesting space this year. So let's talk numbers. They've named 24, and 12 are returning, 9 are out, and 12 new players. So that's huge. And unfortunately, the abbreviation that sums up their off-season and leading into nationals is ACL. And it's really sad, but they have had 4 ACLs, right? But if you include Avril Tan, who did hers last year, there's 5. So 5 players. And it's our, Kade Yoshida. What a loss. Kiyomi Natori, who came over to play, from Japan. It's done her ACL. And the big one again is Mickey Dunmore. So Michaela Dunmore, ACL. She's now coaching. And it's great to see. And I think what they've built here is a really strong club that people want to play for and still contribute, even if they have, these terrible injuries, etc. Considering all of that, they've brought in a bunch of youngsters who I think are going to make a real difference. And in fact, they've got real youth in the leadership. So the leadership is Mish, Evie Miller. So that the selectors were Mish, Harry White, Evie Miller, and Natasha Lang. So Evie and Natasha being quite young. But they've got this really good inclusive program. Everyone getting on board. They go to Grilled after training each time. Their motto is "Love you, trust you." So they're trying to build that trust.
Love that.
It's lovely, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's so important, especially if you've got these players coming over from, they had Daniela Flo Flores from Colombia. They've had uh, Jackie Matonis last year. Unfortunately, he's going to be playing Women's Pro League and has to miss it from the US. So they've got these people coming into Melbourne. Melbourne, as I know, can be quite, it's hard to find your friendships in a big city.
Yep.
And yet they've got this this group of girls who love hanging out. They went to Dream Cup. That was their big lead-in, which meant they missed Canberra Cup. But because of their sister relationship with the Tokyo Mavericks, they spent a weekend before Dream Cup training with them and learning these intricate differences in the way that both teams approach trainings, drills, and how it reflects and what works, what doesn't. How good is that for Australian women's ultimate, for Chile? I just think it's wonderful. And this is all about Mish Phillips's connections, and she's been able to bring these players together. A really wonderful story. They've got a few blue bottles, Natasha Langston, as we mentioned, Julia Kabai, I hope I got that name, and Nicola Cara. Probably got those pronunciations wrong, Dan, but they've got 6 players that are between 18 and 20.
Yep.
How about that? 6 players between 18 and 20.
It's a good spot to be. So your prediction for spicy chili?
Yeah, mate. Sorry, I've gone on a bit of a tear there.
No. You're good. You're good. I'm loving it.
Yeah. So I think just with their youth and being in these conditions, again, they will struggle. Those 1%ers will be found out on their throwing skills. So I'm looking at 7th, but this is a team that is still building, and I think you might see the fruition of that next year.
Mm. Yeah, and I'm agreed. I think that they'll squeeze into the semis. I think they'll do enough during pool play to get themselves into the crossover, or if they're not doing the crossover, into the quarters. I think that it'll be a great year for them. They're bringing a lot and they're promising. Let's move right along. Next, the Sugar Mags from Newcastle.
Well, I'm going to let you take this one to start, and I'll just fill in the gaps.
Well, there's a lot of gaps. I hope you brought your bulldozer to fill in the holes. I'll leave. The thing I noticed, John, and I don't know if the Nationals website was correct. There's only 11 currently registered for the Sugar Mags. Is that correct?
No,
I didn't think so. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, Sugar Mags, the longest running women's team in Australia, and this I love this Sugar Mags team. This is the best Sugar Mags team that we've seen in a hot minute, and it's a bit of a reunion tour for the Sugar Magnolias club, because there's a representative from like every generation of the Sugar Mags here in this club. So Leanne King, right, founding member, was there at the start when the Sugar Mags became a thing, and then after that came, say, Elizabeth Dodd, who she was one of those juniors that started playing, and she represented Australia at the junior level, and then along came, say, Gina Hill, and Gina Hill was playing for a while along with her sister Jess. And that was a generation. And then you've got Britt McCarthy. She was kind of that next generation who came along. And then finally you've got Eleanor and Hannah Neville, who are very much the current generation, along with, Kirsty Murray.
And Annabelle Balasa. So, yes, it's exciting. You're right. We're seeing a complete spread of experience, and it is like this amazing timeline. I'm really hoping. It's great to see Leanne King's name down there. She has been,
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. She's been dealing with some health issues, and we really hope that she can make it. And I think important to how the Sugar Mags play. And Dan, we saw this at Gold Cup and we liked it. Yeah. And how I'm describing the Sugar Mags this year, they are the Ram pickup truck. Right. They are blasting forward. They have destroyed their rear vision mirror. They've knocked out the wing mirrors. They refuse to put it in reverse. And they are just, we are blasting our way forward. I love it, and I really hope that they just continue that into nationals and play with that fearlessness. And because they've got the players, because you've got, Kirsty Murray, yes, she can go both sides of the disc, but you love to see her downfield cleaning up scraps. She's got a great read. She lays out better than anyone in the women's division. You've got Gina Hill, who's just got these blasting, cutting throws into the breeze. Disc golfer, but she's her inside-out throws are really dangerous for any team. You got Sarah Saunders, who we know as Bubbles, who is just the glue, that connects the offense. She plays as a handler, but she plays D-line as well, but she connects the offense. She's quite a mobile handler, really good game IQ.
Yep.
And
I think that I think we've got a winner, John, for the first prediction that has aged like milk. And that's my prediction for the Sugar Mags. I picked them for last. But I want to walk that back already because they are so consistent. And they are beating teams on their consistency. They'll get a turn and then, they might turn it back over, but consistently they are converting more than the teams they're playing. And at some level, that's just the game, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've already got a prediction that's aged like milk. But your pick for the Sugar Mags this year?
Yeah, well, I see they have been duking it out with GWS and the Marlins, and there's win-losses. And they also, at regionals, had a really nice win against Factory Flash. So that's where I see that battle in the 9 to 12. They shouldn't be concerned about. We're talking about, where you've got the likes of Ellipsis and Manly able to have so much depth that they can be even more forward thinking. So Ellipsis thinking about strategy. What's our strategy? We want to be the best throwing team. The strategy for the Mags, can we get enough players to get to nationals? That's what you're dealing with there, and yet they're still able to compete. So that's what I really like about the Sugar Mags.
All right. Next, Zig Theory from South Australia, the one and the only. The home team, we have, a big side for Zig Theory and promising for them.
Yep. They've had 7 not returning from last year. They've brought on a bunch of new players. You've got Alice C, who played Barramundi, another one from WAC who's taking a break. She's an ecologist at Mildura. So that's all fair enough. Dario's returned back to Brisbane. Rosie Foley is now to the coach of cousin of Ben Foley is the coaching. And they've lost Tori Battersby and Sarah Lee to Chile. And Deborah Lee has returned to Malaysia. But they do pick up Alex Pillar-Rogers. That's really important. They've got Anna Rosler, who's talk about bringing down scraps players. That's Anna. She's vice-captain, but, last year, unfortunately, she cooked her hand right at the last minute when she was going to be in that leadership role. They've got a few players who've just come up from Zag Theory, their sister team in Div 2, the likes of Gemma, Anita, Robin, Ruby, and Sarah Middleton, who's actually playing Hammerheads this year for Beach, and also Saria, one of the Colombians, his partner Giovanna is also playing up from Zag Theory, and Zoe up from Zag Theory, and she's moved over from Brisbane. So lots of turnover. I had a good old chat with Nick Footer, their coach. What's not to like about BMF as a coach, Again, just another player that commands respect. So organised, such a good people person. I think that's going to suit them really well in what could be a tough outing. They've already had a weekend training camp at West Beach, right? They deliberately held it at West Beach to get an idea of the conditions. And guess what? Day one was so freaking hot, they couldn't even play, right? It went over the Richter and they had to do indoor sessions. Day two was so windy, it was unplayable. Which just gives you an idea of how freaking tough it could be. Of course, because I've talked it up so much, it's probably going to be absolutely.
We're doing what we can to keep the wind down, and part of that is talking about how windy it's going to be. That's just the curse of the commentator. But yeah, it's going to be a home tournament for Zig Theory. Great to see Nationals go back to South Australia, and yeah, Alex Pilar-Rogers and Sarah Middleton playing together again on the same team. That's good for them. Your prediction, John, for Zig Theory?
Yeah, look, I think just based on their results at Southern Regionals and the loss of a lot of talent, I think it's great they're bringing all these Zag Theory players up, but it will take time for them to mature. I think Sarah Middleton and Alex Pilar-Rogers is going to be key for them for punching into the wind. But they do have two great they've got a lot of zone looks, and they've just got to work through those. This is going to be on BMF to work out what are the zones that actually work for what team. And they've really worked on their zone offense to stay ahead of the cup, to keep the disc moving. And I think if they can bring that together, they'll do well. But yeah, I see them in that 9 to 12 bracket.
And for me, well, I picked them at 9. I think the hometown advantage, they're going to know the conditions the best. And I think Nicole Footer, she's just a legend, isn't she really? What do you say? Hall of Famer, in my view. Been a servant of South Australian Ultimate for so long and has done so many great things over the years. And this will just be another thing, helping this Zig Theory team continue to build. It's good, we're looking forward to it. Let's cast our mind back to last year's results, and then we'll kind of wrap this thing up. Last year, obviously, was an Ellipsis final, first and second for them. Manly Mavericks came third, Rogan fourth, Kaos fifth, GWS sixth, Fuse from Brisbane seventh, Factory Flash eighth, Spicy Chili ninth, and then we had Zig Theory in 10th. That's what it was last year, but with so many big changes across the rosters, easy to see things being completely shook up. And just interesting, John, to put the 24 versus 2025 predictions against each other. Any closing thoughts for you as we wrap up this podcast, this preview of the women's division for the Australian Ultimate Championships?
Isn't it good to see the women returning to 12 teams? It does certainly put the question mark about, I would love to see AFTA obviously have a split next season, but what kind of impact would that have on, as bringing mixed in with opens and women's, right? But what impact would it have on women's? And that's the real danger when you're building these programs and seeing so much incredible movement. Yeah, look, it is a big year of change. We've seen all of the rosters with at least 6 changes in them. So I am going to stick with my picks, even though I already think some of them might be a bit milky and less whiny.
There's some that are very, 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 very suspect. As I'm looking at this, I'm like, no, I don't. I am not full of confidence at all, and I think that's a great thing. If the two of us were sitting here and we've put some thought into our predictions and we're like, we think this is going to happen, and then we have zero confidence, I think that's great because that means the door is open for these teams. Yeah,
couldn't agree more. Going to be exciting. It's going to be really fun.
Well, make sure you tune in on ulti.TV. They are going to be covering the tournament, and it's going to be a great one. We look forward to tuning back in. Make sure that you subscribe to the podcast on whatever channel you happen to be listening to this on, because we'll be back with more catch-ups. I think the next episode, John, is going to be a bit of a mid-season check-in on the Opens, because there's been some doings there. I'm not going to spoil too much of it. But thank you all for joining us, and we're going to see you again next time.